Welcome in to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. I'm your host, Warren Jordan, and tonight with me is my esteemed co-host, Chad Markin. How you doing, buddy?
I am happy to be with you. I'm not well. I'm fighting a cold. I fell on my mountain bike. But if you notice over my right shoulder, I know this is the wrong podcast for it. It's fucking baseball season, buddy.
Oh, God.
Man, I am rooting so excitedly for playoff baseball right now because the Yankees and the Dodgers are in. And there's the only thing I like more than my two teams winning is watching them lose. And so that's been really fun because the Royals are this close. They just lost tonight, like 8 minutes ago. And I think the Padres are about to lose. So they're about to tie that up at 2-2. But it's actually been really fun. I've been watching a lot of baseball with Eddie. And while we are amazed by Shohei, like he is a showstopper, I think, that baseball hasn't seen since Bonds. You got to fucking appreciate it. The guy was like 12 for 14 in September. It was just stupid. It's fun to root against him. So, I don't know, man. It's a good season. You talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's football, baseball playoffs, hockey's a fake sport, basketball's on the way. The seasons are changing. They don't change on here. It's always perfect. Anyway, how you doing?
Yeah, I don't think I talked about any of those things when I was referencing how awesome fall is. I retired from baseball watching in 2016.
Hey, there we go.
The last World Series, was it 15 or 16?
It was 14, but we made a good run in 16.
2015.
Yeah.
I've told this story before. I'll keep it short. So first game of the season, 2015, Mad Bum pitches a great game. I think he gave up one run. He pitched 6.5 innings. He actually hit 2 home runs himself.
Yep.
And turned it over to the bullpen, and they lost. And you could just see that it was over. So I quit.
The dynasty was over.
And I started watching other side soccer. And at that time, Sounders started the season horrible, and we came into watching them, and they ended up winning the cup. So like it was like one of these rags to riches stories, and we watched every soccer game till we had children, and then we stopped watching anything other than football. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about tonight on my intro. I am really excited because we just talked 3 people into buying racing steering wheels. So like for video games.
Okay.
So we used to play, we've got a group of friends from childhood, college, uncles, and now Albert's son. There's a big group of us that play video games occasionally, right? It's seasonal. And we used to play like Call of Duty and stuff. So we used to play first person shooters, Halo, Call of Duty, that kind of thing. But we're old now and we can't compete anymore. And we also drink, which also hinders our ability to compete.
Pew, pew, pew.
Well, just the reaction time.
Yeah.
What we found is that racing is actually very easy to create a balanced competitive environment. So we all have a racing force feedback steering wheel and a way to mount it, whether you sit in a chair. I have like a fold out like racing cockpit sort of thing. It's super fun.
Wait. So hold on. So because you're old,
yeah,
and you drink,
yeah,
shooting games are tough, but driving is easier.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of practice, obviously.
I was going to say.
Anyway, like I said, we're not going to talk about those things so that we can both stay focused and care what the other person is talking about. Tonight, we've got various topics. Great show for you all on the League of Extraordinary GMs Podcast. All right, let's get this show on the road. So, Chatham, why don't you kick us off with some things that we saw this past week in regards to variances and noise from week 5?
So, the first one we're talking is Bears-Panthers. And we can go back a couple weeks for the Bears-Panthers to even just Panthers, Sans, Bryce Young. So in comes Andy Dalton, and all of a sudden I get to start Deontay Johnson and blah, 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 people like that. While that is in Dynasty worth paying attention to, when there's a down week for the Panthers like they had this last week, there's no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And there's also no reason to, in our league, go and suddenly anoint the Bears as the team now. Overplaying the fact that Caleb had a good game. Like, meh, everyone's had a good game against the Panthers except for Arizona.
Everyone's had a good game against the Panthers, and no one's had a good game against the Bears.
Right.
So
not worth thinking about.
Yeah, and the next one we've got was the Ravens and Bengals shootout, and the point here being, don't expect 42 passes from Lamar on a typical week, unless this team is facing somebody else who's going to put up a lot of points. That's not the kind of ball they want to play, right?
Moving on to the Colts Jags.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to talk about here. Like, I mean, all right. So
an unrepeatable shootout.
Is Flacco going to even play this week? I mean, Anthony Richardson is supposed to be. So, like, I don't know what to do because you've got Josh Downs, who is pretty much demonstrating that he is an alpha and maybe better than Pittman. Just like I have Downs in a couple of different situations.
Well, Pittman could miss multiple weeks. Like that's the only like valuable takeaway from this situation to me.
Well, but like, who cares if it's Anthony Richardson?
Right. Good point.
What do you throw 19 times the first game? Like, if he comes back, all receivers are off the board. All right, next one.
Bucks versus Falcons last Thursday night.
That was so fun.
Yeah, it's like the first Island game I missed all year because it was my daughter's birthday. But yeah, I don't think we can count on Kirk Cousins throwing 58 times for 4 TDs frequently. So you can go ahead and toss out the dual 27-point performance for London and Mooney. That's not going to happen again this season or ever in the history of the Falcons. 16 targets for Mooney. Though I remember commenting on it during the game, though, because I was kind of tracking what you guys were saying. Not that I get to watch that game very much, but I did watch a lot of their earlier games and being surprised at how often Darnell Mooney was the first read over London.
Right.
And not to like trash on London. I actually think he's with these last 3 weeks, 9, 12, 13 targets.
Yep.
There's something there between both of them, but yeah, nothing. I mean, don't get carried away with what they did on Thursday night. The last one we had here for the week 5 noise was just to call out the top 5 scoring running backs from week 5 in order: Tank Bigsby, DeAndre Swift, Rico Dowdle, Kareem Hunt, and Ramondre Stevenson, just like we all expected coming into the week. Hope you set your DFS lineups accordingly.
Yep.
So not to dig into the specifics of any of these one guys at the moment here, but one question I wanted to ask is, in terms of rest of season, which of those 5 guys, Bigsby, Swift, Dowdle, Hunt, Stevenson, do you like the most rest of season?
Probably Dowdle, Bigsby. Oh, that's tough. Swift is at the back for sure. So Dowdle brings all the things to that offense that they're lacking. And then Bigsby looks the part, and Etienne keeps getting kind of banged up. I don't know, man. Those guys both seem like they've got pretty clear paths.
I like the Dowdle call. I actually was high on Dowdle coming into the season. Since I'm tanking our 1 QB, I traded him to Ryan for some picks during the draft, the rookie draft. And he doesn't know who this guy is, right? So I was trying to tell him, I was like, no, Ryan, like,
Right.
I really think this guy is going to be the Cowboys running back. My second choice of the group, I think Kareem Hunt is going to dominate that backfield. Not just because he just did it this week, but because Carson Steele has fumbled away his career.
Yeah.
Samaje Perine is a dust ball.
Yeah.
And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of the worst running backs I've ever seen in the NFL. And I hate to trash on a guy who's been dealing with mental health issues.
That's what I was going to say.
But we'll just pile that onto the fact that he wasn't good before.
100%.
So
yeah, both those things can be true. It's sad, and he wasn't good, and now he's dealing with this stuff.
I don't know if Kareem Hunt can stay healthy and carry that much workload at the age of 29 at this point in his career. He's got to be amped up. Like we recall his career. He started there. He got drafted by the Chiefs.
Star.
Like he wrecked our fantasy league on Cody's team. Cody had he ended up with Zeke, Gurley,
and
Kareem Hunt in whatever year that was. I guess it was 2017.
That was absurd.
And week 1, Kareem Hunt comes out on, was that Thursday?
Yeah.
Like Chiefs and Patriots, Thursday night football.
Yeah.
He had 44 fantasy points.
and if I remember, because I had already done a school draft where I drafted Hunt in, I think, the 4th round, and I felt like I was, or maybe even 5th round. And I'm pretty sure Cody went running back. And we were all like, Cody, that was dumb. And he's like, watch.
Yeah.
But he fucking killed us. I mean, but the worst part about Hunt isn't just what Hunt did. It was then many years later when they drafted CEH. CEH wrecked fantasy leagues by doing the opposite.
Well, no, he came out week 1.
He did.
He put up like 25 fantasy points week 1.
And 25.
And then I think it was like week 2.
Yeah.
He had like 5 goal line carries in a row, and it was like, oh no.
Not the same. Yeah.
What? Something's not working here.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, man.
The best offense in the league will make the dusty retreads look good. However, there are other situations where dusty retreads will not look good.
That was a phenomenal segue.
You like that?
That was good.
Let's talk about some things happening around the league that will lead us into that.
Word. So we're pretty excited because the Niners are about to get back the defensive coordinator of the century. So Saleh was fired by Woody Johnson, the owner. It's the first coach that he has fired midseason. And the rumor mill that exists suggests that Saleh, after how abysmally they've played the last couple of weeks, their offense has been absolutely dog shit, was planning on taking away play calling from Nathaniel Hackett.
Rightfully so.
100%. Nathaniel Hackett is he and Aaron Rodgers cuddle. And so it's not like what Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford do. They have breakfast, which is a more appropriate relationship. Nathaniel Hackett and Rodgers cuddle. And And Rodgers probably has
darkness retreats together.
They probably he probably does the splinter hair back thing while they cuddle, and then they touch beards and stuff, which is cool, but not good for the league. And so, point is, Saleh was like, "Hey, this dude sucks," and somebody, probably Splinter himself, aka Rodgers, went and said, "This dude needs to be out," which is crazy to me. That Saleh had to go through all of that trauma of all of these bad teams that he was given, and then he built this incredible defense, and he was given a pretty good offense. They built a good offense around him, but it was contingent on whether or not Rodgers comes around, and then Rodgers plays 4.5 games, and he fucking gets the guy fired. Aaron Rodgers, he'll go in the Hall of Fame. He's great. He is an all-time wiener face in the NFL. Sorry, that was not in the show doc. I got excited about it.
I think this is good for Robert Saleh.
I agree.
It's like you're dating this crazy ass chick and almost get married.
And she's hot.
Yeah.
It's hot. She's Breece Hall hot, top 5 defense hot, Garrett Wilson hot.
She leaves you, that's and you're like, what?
He gets to play the martyr.
You're leaving me?
Is that what you're saying? He gets to play the martyr?
Man.
No,
so to me, that's what's happening is the crazy B is leaving Robert Saleh, and it's freeing him to go find a beautiful situation elsewhere. Hopefully back with the Niners. I would love that. But I think he'll find another head coaching job. I think he'll be at the top of the list of candidates, and there seem to be 4, 5, 6 every year that get fired.
Right. Jags would be a great spot for him. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. But anyway, you've had the hardest schedule.
I don't think it's what Robert Saleh was doing that was the problem, like you were saying. I think it was the trash play that Rodgers was putting on the field and the absolute trash offensive management coming from Hackett.
Nailed it.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Landed it the first time. Yeah, the first time you landed it.
Okay, first time. I didn't have to bring it back. Okay.
Hitting it right into the wall.
So Nathaniel Hackett.
Much better the third time.
What has he done?
I bet you he kicks dogs.
Oh, that's not cool.
I'm going after him. He walks by homeless people who are and he's takes money from their shit. I bet you he's a horrible guy too.
Well, so the only thing he's done
is befriend quarterbacks. He's a friend of quarterbacks.
Was he was a part of a successful team in 2020 and 2021 when he was the OC for Aaron Rodgers back-to-back MVP seasons under a now we know to be incredible coach, Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, incredible.
But I don't think in any way I would credit either of those situations to Nathaniel Hackett.
You gotta see a doctor about that thing.
Trying to build this whole case of there's 3 things that you want to do in a modern NFL offense, in my opinion, and the opinions that I've learned from others. But one, and this has been one of the biggest talking points of the year in the NFL with the Saints and others, but pre-snap motion.
Yep.
Because it gives you keys of what the defense is doing. 2, changing up your packages depending on who you're playing. And then the third one being play action rate.
Right.
The one that I did pull up was the pre-snap motion example, because I found one of these cool charts where it charts percentage of pre-snap motion and then success rate of pre-snap motion. And even this year, the Jets are in the back of the league. There's a grouping of 10 teams that are all about the same, where it's under 50% of the time they're using pre-snap motion, and that's where the Jets are.
The Patriots, the Steelers, the Jets, the Jags, the Bears, the
Panthers, Broncos, the Browns.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was looking more just bottom left, and the Browns. So offensives that are stagnant. and are pretty easy to defend. Yeah, Warren, I thought this was friggin' awesome. And so I saw this, and then you had left open, and again, full-time job. You were making fun of the fact that I copy pasted because I just was Googling something that I heard and I found it and I was like, oh, there's some stats. And I wrote, just copying the stats, I'll say my own shit. And you made fun of me. And I was like, dude, I went full Tommy Hayes. Do you remember how many times we watched basketball when we were in Santa Barbara? Yeah. And one of my, like immediately when you texted me that, or maybe you put it in Sleeper.
No, I texted you. I
was like, yo, you make fun of me 300 or 400 more times, I'm out of here. That's
so bringing it full circle, analyzing one retread offensive coordinator. We just want to run through the list of other retread offensive coordinators.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Dorsey with Cleveland, their offense is dog crap. But you're bumped up by the fact that he was in Buffalo with Josh Allen, who is an insane talent in 22 and 23.
And then you've got Alex Van Pelt, who's currently the New England Patriots offensive coordinator. He was previously the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator for the last 3 years, was fired in the offseason. Obviously, the New England situation is abysmal to start, but also not going well.
Right. And then Joe Lombardi, which doesn't make any sense because if you have Justin Herbert and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and you get fired in LA, how do you get a new job? And he got a new job with Denver this year. It bums me out.
Cool last name.
I mean, it's the coolest football last name.
But because nepotism isn't a thing in the NFL.
No. That's not true. It's it's a meritocracy, sir.
Yeah, meritocracy.
The bummer is you and I are both. Well, I think to speak for you, I think we're both Bo Nix fans, and there are quite a few.
No, I'm not a Bo Nix fan.
Oh, I really like Bo Nix. He's our age. Oh, sorry, that's a good point. He went to college for like 7 years. Anyone who's able to play. That's what I'm saying. Anyone who's smart enough to do that is fucking rat. Okay. Take the duck aside. Bo Nix is the man. Okay, continue.
Next one is Luke Getsy. He's currently the Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator. Previously, the Bears offensive coordinator for Justin Fields the last 2 years. He sucked for the last 2 years, and now his team sucks again.
I think that might be the most confusing one. Right?
I don't know, man.
Of all of them, like there are excuses for Dorsey, Van Pelt, Lombardi, and then even Shane Fraudron. That's not how you say it, but he's a fraud. See what I said there? It's kind of like your Hackett. Sorry, never mind.
I mean, I wrote the show doc. You don't have to try and get it by me.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. Sometimes I edited this one. Okay, anyway. Yeah, Fraudron, who what Seattle did in 21 to 23, and it is something, I think it's unfair to shit on Pete Carroll. I hate Pete Carroll. I hate SC. I hate Seattle. And he's always been on the opposite side of the teams that I like. But that dude is a motivator, and it is very clear that his teams run the ball, they control the game, and he has done a great job, Pete Carroll, for many teams. And Shane Fraudron did it 2 times, worked off that, and now he's got this incredible offense, or he should have this incredible offense in Chicago. And barring this last weekend against Carolina, they are just poopy, boring McGee.
All right. Welcome back to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. We had to take a little potty break, so I hope you enjoyed the elevator music while we are away. Now we're going to talk about a few players that we find interesting. Maybe we'll agree, maybe we'll disagree.
So the first one, I'm a little soft on, just period, as far as the take goes. So it's Jonathan Taylor. I think there's a lot to this one. So first of all, his injury, like his recent injury, and it feels kind of creepy, picking on him, given that he just has this injury. But his prior injury was the exact same injury. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
know
what I was going to say is like,
is it the same?
That's been his story for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. So he lit the league on fire. #1 running back. Blah blah blah. Actually, supplanted.
Well, let's go back and start from the beginning.
Sorry.
I'll lead off the foundation, and then you can take over.
Got it. Good.
Because this was a big one for the player profiler universe, and it was a heated battle between Matt Kelly and his former co-host on the Sonic Truth. So CEH and Jonathan Taylor came into the league the same year.
No.
Yes.
No, not that. I just didn't know it was a battle. Yeah. I knew that they came into the league.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So coming into that season, most people were on CEH. I mean, CEH was the de facto 101. And really? Matt Kelly was opposed, and he was on Jonathan Taylor. He's like, because that was the foundation of what player profiler is we care about the profile of a player, and Jonathan Taylor was a better profile than CEH.
Yeah.
But
wow,
the entire industry had CEH higher than Jonathan Taylor. And sure enough, all rookie drafts, CEH went first. He went at the 101, and Jonathan Taylor went at the 102 or later. I don't remember the details. We weren't playing Dynasty yet. And then week 1 of the season comes around, and CEH puts up 22, 25 points. I can't remember. I think you drafted him in our redraft league. I was at Samish at the time. I can picture where I was standing when I was trying to trade you for him.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think it was like Dak was involved. I don't know. I could probably look it up.
Right.
But anyway, so it didn't start well for Matt and the doubters of CEH. But then you look at what started to happen, and by the midpoint of the season, it was very clear that no, it's Jonathan Taylor, and he's a boss. And CEH is garbage. So that's the rookie year. And then his second year was when he was the RB1, and he massive volume. I mean, like several games over 30 touches.
Right.
Like 5 or 6 games with 7 games with multiple touchdowns. Just awesome. Complete awesome. But then that was it. In the next 2 years, ankle injuries. And now this year.
Right. So fascinating, because going back to college, actually, I was fortunate that my college roommate, one of my best friends, my best friend from college, was at the time coaching at Ohio State. And they had Chase Young on their team, and they played Wisconsin that week, and Jonathan Taylor went fucking bananas. And Ohio State still won, but I remember thinking, holy crap, there are 2 players on the team. It was Jonathan Taylor and Chase Young that so clearly were better athletes than everybody else on the team. And I think what's fascinating about Jonathan Taylor is, it's like anybody, right? Like anybody in any sport, like sport is 95% opportunity, and then 5% luck, right? And this poor guy, he just can't stay healthy. These high ankle sprains are debilitating. He hasn't really been the same since he came back. And then they drafted a running quarterback who is not, and this is what I was saying to you earlier, is he is not Jalen Hurts. He is not Lamar Jackson. He is not Josh Allen. He is not a person who is polished enough to also currently, given that, Anthony Richardson's essentially a rookie, can help Jonathan Taylor maintain his value. And so given the fact that Jonathan Taylor has all this tread, has all these things, I mean, it's one of the reasons I was out on him early last year. And I don't see him having a resurgence.
So I think that I'm not trying to call like the end of the road of any sort of production ever for Jonathan Taylor. The one thing he does have going for him with Anthony Richardson is the Alfred Morris corollary, which is Alfred Morris was the running back in the RG3, peak days, which were short. But Alfred Morris was a dust ball, but he was able to be productive in a situation with the rushing quarterback where with the rushing quarterback, it opens up opportunities and easier running lanes for the running back because the defense has to pay attention to what the rushing quarterback is doing.
Right.
Which is great. So there's potential for there to be some rushing productivity with Anthony Richardson, but the receiving game is gone. That is just not going to be an element of Jonathan Taylor's game. And when you don't have a receiving game, I mean, you're looking at like Brian Robinson. What he's doing is being your peak production.
Right.
Which and don't get me wrong, that's great. Like I would love to have Brian Robinson on a competing team. But the point being here that we're trying to make is that at Jonathan Taylor's value, so Jonathan Taylor is currently still ranked very high. So Player Profiler has him at the running back 6, but you look at the other places across the industry and he's still like RB4. Most places have him over Achane and Saquon, behind Gibbs, Bijan, and Brees. But if you're not getting the pass game production, Anthony Richardson is potentially going to hold the offense back.
Yep.
And not pass the ball to him. And so you're just looking at trying to squeeze efficiency out of 15 to 18 pure rushes a game. I scroll down the dynasty running back rankings for other running backs that are doing that. He's not old. Jonathan Taylor's not old. He's 26, basically. He's 25.7. So let's call him 26. So he's already sliding back in the age curve, right? So the peak is like 25 for running backs. So he's already past the peak. I mean, would you rather have...
This is what I was just going to say to you.
So Jonathan Taylor or Jonathan Brooks?
Oh, Brooks.
Okay. Jonathan Taylor or Kyren Williams?
Kyren Williams.
Kenneth Walker. James Cook.
Maybe Taylor.
Okay. If I were to tell you that Christian McCaffrey's career is over, would you rather have Jonathan Taylor or Jordan Mason?
That was the one I was going to say. That was one I was going to ask you. Because that one's really hard.
I would rather have Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
If you told me Jordan Mason was the 49ers running back. So anyway, let's keep it rolling to another running back. Another running back in the top 10, actually. And coming into the season, he was, I want to say, roughly like RB7-ish.
So Player Profiler has him currently dynasty at number 10. And this is Etienne, Travis Etienne, who we're talking about, who is wildly famous for his inefficiency. He started last season on a bit of a, and then he had a middle of the season that was just incredible, and it landed him. God, do you know what he ended up last season? Did he end up? What was he? He was running back. He was running back 7. So his rookie year, or sorry, his 2022 year, he was running back 23. Last year he was running back 7, but he started the season middle of the season was so strong, and he tapered off at the end. And now you have a guy that everyone was super high on in Tank Bigsby. Coming out of college, people were really high on him. He had all the right dominator scores, etc. And then last year, Bigsby was a nothing burger. And this year, the guy has been incredibly efficient. And Etienne has been hurt. And I think what was important is that in the last several weeks, last 3 weeks, Bigsby has been slowly closing the gap on snap count percentage. And last week, he surpassed Etienne for the first time. Now, Etienne was hurt. So it is a chicken or the egg, right? Like, and I think this is why I put this in here. Peterson said, Travis is our guy. Tank had a good game. That's just the way the games go. But Etienne ran routes he had 40% of the routes run in the 4th time this season, while Bigsby hasn't gone past 25% yet. So Bigsby hasn't actually become the running, even though he caught a couple passes last week and one for a touchdown. So, like, while saying that, I think that the roles are shifting into a more Gibbs Montgomery, and yet neither of those dudes are Gibbs or Montgomery. And so I think that in general, I'm more out on Etienne.
The other thing I wanted to say about Travis Etienne is that going into next season, Travis Etienne is going to want a contract.
Right.
And he might do the holdout thing, especially for running backs. And I don't disagree. Like, for a running back to be held for 5 years. And so he would potentially, so when next year starts, he'll be 26. And if he played under that contract, when the next year starts, he'll be 27. Dude, running back careers are over.
Yeah.
I really think that they need to make that scale more variable based on 100%, right?
It's unfair.
But anyway, so I think going into next year, Etienne will hold out and want a contract, and I think the Jags know that.
So the next guy is one where we disagree. So we're pretty much on the same page with Etienne. And the next guy is CeeDee Lamb. And I am a huge CD guy. So, bias on the table. My dad went to Oklahoma. I have been to 4 bowl games with my dad. We watched, as like my dad's waning years, we would watch CD's Oklahoma teams and be like, this is the year we beat Alabama, and they didn't. And so I was a huge fan of CD coming out of college. And I was furious that the Niners passed up CD for Kinlaw, right? And then I was pretty pumped that the Niners, a couple of picks later, picked up Ayuk. So, like, win-win, right? Kinlaw, I mean, whatever. Had they had CD and Ayuk, sorry, that's not the point. The point is, he was very strong coming out of college. That was an offense that the Oklahoma teams at that time were really strong. Like, their offenses were really strong. That was the back-to-back Baker, Kyler, Hurts years. And they had a lot of talent, a lot of running backs, a lot of wide receivers. And so dominator score, as far as not dominator score, target share scores were all pretty low for CD coming out of college. They were all like 60 to 70%, so not that impressive. But his dominator score was still super young. It was a 19.4, if by memory. Anyway, he comes out, has a wiener first couple 2 years, which is, unless you're Chase or Malik Neighbors, It's kind of fair. Like that's okay. But then his third year, he jumps to 100 catches, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, and he's fantasy wide receiver number 7. And then in 2023, he makes the leap, and it's the second half of the season. He actually, at this point in the season, he's number 19, I think. I think he's wide receiver 19. I think wide receiver 20 last year, this game. And he just exploded the second half of the season. Wide receiver number 1, 135 catches, 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns. And I don't see why. I really don't see why they can't recreate that. Their offensive line is still one of the better offensive lines. Dak is Dak. They are replacing Zeke with Rico Dowdle. Their defense is not that strong, so they're going to have to throw the ball. They don't have anyone else. They have Tolbert as the other option. So I don't see why CD can't replicate a top 5 wide receiver season. And if I had the opportunity to buy him low, I would go buy him low.
Okay, that's where I'll start. Thank you for giving me the perfect, like, I feel like you just like threw the basketball up in front of the rim, and it had like a spring trampoline in front of it, so I could actually dunk. Since as a 41-year-old, I can't get up there anymore. I used to be able to. So I once upon a time I could dunk a volleyball. I never could dunk a basketball because I couldn't palm it all the way and it would slip out.
Warren, I've known you since we're like 6 years old.
Little hands. Well, you went away in high school. You left us. Went to your fucking prep school in Santa Barbara until you got kicked out. And they sent you back.
Fucking loser. I got him a loser.
So, what you said was, if I could buy low on CeeDee Lamb. Okay. So are you telling me that him currently being valued essentially as the number 1 wide receiver in Dynasty fantasy football is too low? What's your buy low interpretation here?
So I hear what you're saying. Do you think that people would put Justin Jefferson over CeeDee Lamb right now?
I 1 billion% would take Justin Jefferson over CeeDee Lamb in Dynasty.
Okay, what about
no
Chase?
questions asked.
What about
I'd take Jamar Chase. I'd take Malik Neighbors.
St. Brown.
I would take Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Fuck no. That's a different topic.
What I'm saying, though, is I feel like right now, if you were the Marvin Harrison Jr. guy, Albert, you could make a solid case to make a trade for CeeDee Lamb. A 1-to-1. Hey, you know what? Let's switch. And I would take that trade.
The other part of your point that I wanted to burn to the ground was all of the production numbers that you pointed out from last year.
Right.
All of that production came from the easiest wide receiver schedule I've ever seen in my life. So before week 6, CeeDee Lamb last year, 9 points in week 1, 8 points in week 3, 7 points in week 5, and then the Rams, one of the worst passing. I mean, these aren't the Rams of old. This is Rams of now. They suck on defense. 35 points. The Eagles' passing defense last year was horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous. Their secondary, like, people don't remember this. They think like, oh, the Eagles are good. No, terrible. They're like bottom 5 last year on passing defense, 24 points. New York Giants, they still suck this year, 34 points. Panthers suck. Washington Commanders defense, passing defense sucks. Seattle Seahawks passing defense still sucks. Eagles defense
transition
still
to this
sucks.
year. Transition to this year. Who do they play this Sunday?
One of the worst passing defenses. They're gonna crush them.
So what the fuck? That's what I'm saying. Like
But that's not sticky. For Dynasty, that's not sticky. Being able to play against the worst defenses over and over is not a sticky statistic.
I see what you're saying.
But I think that he doesn't belong in the Justin Jefferson, Chase, Neighbors spectrum. I think he should be down around the AJ Brown, Nico Collins spectrum.
Totally agree. I agree 1,000%. He's
wide
outside
receiver
tier
7.
Yep.
Which is where he was before his blow up last year.
Yep, 100%.
Anyway. So as we were transitioning from CD to Marvin Harrison, we were also going to push Marvin Harrison down.
Yeah, a lot.
So he has not lost any value yet in the lifetime value rankings.
Is that
but
true?
You know, let's not dig into the details here. Let's just say like Marvin Harrison or Nico Collins.
Nico.
AJ Brown. Drake London.
You have to go really far. You have to go all the way to
Garrett Wilson.
Yep, keep going. You have to go to Rashee Rice.
So some of these guys I think are not in the right place. Like Chris Olave. Yeah, I would think about it. But I don't think Chris Olave belongs up there either.
But also Jaden Reed. I'd put Jaden Reed way up at 11.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably take Jaden Reed over Marvin Harrison Jr. I think I'd probably take Puka over Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But I would take Marvin Harrison Jr. over. I would think about it with Olave. I'd probably take him over Devontae Smith.
I was just say I'd probably take him over Waddle, Rashee Rice,
DJ Moore.
Probably Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, probably Tyreek Hill. I mean, unless they're just trying to win this year, and that's all. Whenever Tua plays again, I guess.
But I think so, and you made fun.
But even Ayuk. What about Brandon Ayuk? Would you rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Brandon Ayuk?
Brandon Ayuk.
So, and this is where the value to me started to stand out. So Marvin Harrison. So the peak of the wide receiver range in Player Profiler is 362. That's Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Chase is right below. Marvin Harrison Jr. is 300.
I know.
And then you go down to wide receiver 22, Brandon Ayuk, he's 150. So you're telling me that do you want Brandon Ayuk and Tank Dell, or Brandon Ayuk and DK Metcalf, or Brandon Ayuk and Ladd McConkey, or DK Metcalf and Tank Dell? I'll take two of those guys over 100%. Marvin Harrison Jr.
every day.
No questions asked.
In both redraft and dynasty. I think that's the
both.
thing. Like I've been really struggling because I made this comment a couple weeks ago that there's like a Julio Jones, big body, the way you move on a ball, the way he's very smooth. Marvin Harrison Jr. He's very smooth. It's impressive how athletic he looks at 21 miles an hour and very calm. But he gets manhandled. He has really sloppy route running abilities. And honestly, and this is what I copy pasted from Player Profiler, was the whole point about like Michael Wilson is running more routes, is getting more targets, is more of their guy, even though that number 2 week where they came out, nothing happened. Marvin Harrison Jr. made the big like stink in the media, and then they went to him like 14 fucking times to appease him, and they've been like, you know what, this shit doesn't work. Now he's a rookie and he has room to grow, but there's so
keep
much.
in mind that week 2, 27 points, LA Rams, trash secondary.
Yeah, agreed.
Week 3, 15 points, trash secondary in the Lions. Week 4, Commanders, 13 points, trash secondary. Week 5 and week 1, Bills and Niners.
Yeah.
You got 0.9 points and 4.6 points.
I don't know, man.
And then now he's going Green Bay.
Yeah.
Chargers, I don't know what to make of that defense. I bet they step up just based on their coaching. Miami, not great. But then Chicago, Jets. He's got Seattle twice, which is great. So he does have some games down the stretch where he'll get points.
Or Michael Wilson could get the points because he's demonstrating ability to get open.
Yeah. But let's just watch when players are able to score points, and if they're not able to score points against good teams, then that means they're not good or they're not in a good situation.
Yeah. And honestly, he's in a great situation. It is absurd to think that you're with Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, you have Connor there for at least one more year, and then you have a Trey Benson. So you have the offensive pieces so that you're not the only guy. You're not alone like Malik Neighbors, and he doesn't have to create like Malik Neighbors does. He should have all of the reasons to find success, and I think he will find success. I just kind of see him as like a Mike Williams. And like if he stays healthy, a healthy Mike Williams was a very valuable fantasy person, but he, as a healthy guy, was a top 15. He wasn't a top 5.
No, I think his ceiling is Mike Evans.
Right.
And his floor is probably Mike Williams.
Right. Because a healthy Mike Williams is Mike Evans.
The contorted body control in the air.
They're insane.
He got that. And he's going to do that until he's not young enough to do that again.
Yep.
But you're not going to instill confidence in your quarterback to throw that ball over and over unless sometimes you can get open. Right.
And they'll see you as a second read open. And you'll get 7 targets a game. Maybe 6, and 2 of them will be for touchdowns, and that's great.
And also, I don't want our fantasy members to think that these takes against their players are attacks.
No,
at all.
I hope not.
I don't give crap whose team these guys are on. We're just
Albert and
Sam. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Is it Sam?
I don't know. I love you both.
But anyway, we're not doing this to dump on our league mates. We're trying to have assertive opinions about players that may run contrary to the average. Well, let's move into another player where we're going to disagree. So, Chatham, tell me about Jalen Hurts, currently at wide receiver 19 in total points.
He is crap, and you need to drop him in all formats, in daily, in fucking weekly, redraft, and in the NFL. So here's the deal. Here is the deal. I spent a lot of time doing this today, and Warren hated all this take, so fuck off.
I mean, the more time you spend, the less valuable it is. So no, I'm just kidding.
This one wasn't copied. This wasn't a fucking player profile. This was like Chatty was sitting on the shitter hiding from students.
I know. I saw you typing in there for a long time.
Yeah. Typing's hard for me. I only have pinkies.
What? You're an English teacher.
You shut up. I read people's stuff and edit it like I have any idea what I'm doing. Here's the point.
Make the case against.
Since his time at Alabama, he has had, I don't understand how this is actually a real statistic. He's had 10 plus offensive coordinators. Now, I had to go look because that didn't make sense number-wise, but it includes offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches. So looking deeper into this, he had one.
We're talking about Jalen Hurts.
Did we not say that?
Just want to make sure it was clear.
Fair enough.
Keep going.
So he had a new offensive coordinator every year in college. In the pros, it was Doug Peterson calling his plays and his quarterback coach kind of vacillating between his first year in the league. Then Shane Steichen did it in 21 and 22, and 22 was his big QB1 explosion that a lot of people called for because Shane Steichen is a pretty well-known. I mean, he does his thing. He knows what he's doing, and he sets his quarterbacks up. He last year was also great as the quarterback too, but he had a new offensive coordinator, and I lost his name. I deleted that. My bad. What was fascinating about that is that in both in 22 and 23, he had 22 and 23 touchdowns through the air. This year, he is on PS4. This year, he's on pace for 16 touchdowns through the air. Now, I do think that the regression to the mean will happen, and he'll have a big game, and he'll end up with 20 touchdowns. But in the last 2 years, he's had 13 rushing touchdowns and 15 rushing touchdowns. And this year, he has 2 rushing touchdowns. So he is on pace for 8 rushing touchdowns. And so to our prior conversation about motion and the fact that they don't use it much, I don't know that he's going to have a jump in his passing touchdowns and frickin' Saquon. So Saquon is the number 2 top 3 running backs in the league right now between him, the King, and Kyren Williams. And I just think that what they'll continue to do is Saquon. It's not poaching touchdowns. Saquon will score touchdowns from the 6, from the 8, from the 10, from the 12. And Hurts was getting touchdowns from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I don't see any possible way for Hurts to end up having those 10 plus touchdowns rushing that then allowed his 22-23 passing, which I think he could hit again. But if you take away 5 touchdowns, you take yourself from a 1 to 5 quarterback, because now then he becomes a pocket passer. And I don't see him as a better pocket passing quarterback this year than Baker or Burrow. And I think Daniels jumps him. And so that's my take, is that I'm out on, and I have him in a redraft league, and I am actively trying to shop him for Daniels. And so sorry. I was going to say this. He's fine. He's the fucking man. Next year, the next 2 years, dynasty. I do think that they figure it out, because I do think his offensive coordinator will figure it out.
So it's not fair when you trash on a guy and then before the transition, you just say, but I love him. He's really awesome. He's my favorite in Dynasty. You're like, well,
he'll be fine in 3 years.
He'll be fine in 3 years. Okay.
He'll be fine.
I can work with that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, so let me end it.
No,
he'll suck this year. He'll suck next year. There you go. There we go.
I think this is where our opportunity to make a week 6 bet is. So,
who's
playing Hurts versus who?
All right. So they go Browns. That's awesome. Giants.
Who's they?
Oh my God. The Eagles go Browns, Giants, Bengals, Jags, Cowboys, Commanders, Rams. What the shit?
Baltimore, and then Carolina, Pittsburgh, and then Washington, Dallas.
Oh my God.
The Eagles get the same schedule that the Cowboys do.
Dude, you're totally right. This is incredible. If he doesn't erupt into QB1, what is Washington's?
if Jalen Hurts has his weapons, who is going to outscore Jalen Hurts?
I don't know with that. I mean, okay, so I mean, we could do a fun one, right? So, like, I am saying this, and I do believe this. I do believe that with Saquon ending up there, that he has been relegated to a pocket passer with running capabilities.
Fully disagree.
Okay. So we're agreeing that we disagree on this take.
Dude is averaging over 10 rushes a game.
Sure. And we talked. I
That's
said
not
this.
a pocket passer.
He's on pace for 600 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns, and he's still only going to throw 22 touchdowns. So what is
with that?
What is CJ Stroud going to throw? 30 touchdowns? Let's just call it CJ Stroud.
Okay. I'll take Hurts versus Stroud.
Okay, hold on. Let's look at Houston. Houston is Patriots, Packers, Colts, Jets. I don't like any of this. Lions, Cowboys, Titans, Jags, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans. Son of a biscuit. But what is Stroud right now? So Stroud is, dude, I have all of the elevator music in my earbuds. Stroud
is like QB 10-ish.
Yeah, he's 14 right now. So currently Stroud has seven passing touchdowns, which is times 4, 30 touchdowns. Who could we get that's a pocket passer? Who's the number 4 quarterback right now? No, I don't want like a Sam
Jaden Daniels is the number 4 quarterback.
I don't want that crap. No, let's go Stroud.
Okay.
I think Stroud throws so let's just do this. Here's the bet. Stroud has greater than 30 touchdowns. And Hurts has fewer than 30 touchdowns.
Well, I'm not taking that. Like Hurts that's not comparable.
The
apples and oranges.
The last 2 seasons,
Hurts has never thrown 30 touchdowns. So why would I be projecting him to eclipse that?
No, I'm including the rushing touchdowns.
Oh, 30 touchdowns total.
30 touchdowns. Who ends up with more touchdowns?
Oh.
That seems like a fair bet.
Okay, fine. Take it.
Take it. Put it on the board. Yes.
Put it on the board.
We probably
totally stealing that from ESPN's Fantasy Football Now.
Oh no, dude, that's stolen from the White Sox guy who when
Put
they
it
hit the
on the board.
Oh no, when the White Sox hit a home run, there's an old guy there. I think his name's like Tank, and he says, "Put it on the board." Yes, home run. Yeah. Then ESPN plagiarizes all that shit.
With
especially you.
We'll see you next time on the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. It's time for Hawk Talk. That's actually a red-tailed hawk. not to be confused with the sweet, calming chirp of a seahawk, or commonly known as an osprey. Oh, it's so cute. It's a cute little hawk. Anyway, last night when we did our show, we somehow forgot to talk about this huge Thursday night matchup between the Seahawks and 49ers, and we would be remiss to not talk about it altogether. Chatham is off at work this morning. I'm also at work at my home where I work, but I thought I would jump on the mic here and give a little rundown of the game and do a little hawk talk for our Seahawks fans in the neighborhood and family in the general Seattle area. Just a way to generate some more views and listens for us. So let's break it down. So tonight we've got Seahawks and Niners on Thursday Night Football in Seattle. The Vegas line for this game is 49ers by 3.5 with a 49.5 point over under, an implied point total for the 49ers of 26.5 and the Hawks 23. So Vegas is saying that the Niners are better than the Seahawks by about 5.5 to 6 points, depending on how many points you want to assign to home field advantage. But let's take a look at both sides. So just a little bit of an overview here and why we're doing this. As a Niners fan, I do live in the Seattle area, and we've got this great little community in the suburbs of Seattle with a bunch of neighborhood dads, most of which are Seahawks fans. We've gotten to know each other over the years. We've got a fantasy league together now, hang out occasionally. Next week, we're going to the Emerald Queen Casino because they have a sports book, and it's going to be awesome. But anyway, so within this group of neighborhood dads, we've got the full spectrum of Seahawks fans. We've got Adam, the overly competent, super optimist fan. We've got Aaron, the happy-go-lucky, we'll get him next time, buddy, sort of fan. And then you've got Kevin, the super pessimistic, for the point of softening the potential disappointment fan, which I actually can align with, as I do the same with the Niners, assuming that they will lose every game. That way, if they do, it's not so bad. But anyway, so I asked for some feedback from the fellas, and here's what I got. From Adam, we've got the thoughts of the Hawks are a more complete team, that the San Francisco defense is not as dominant as it has been in years past. He thinks that Seattle will be able to move the ball on the Niners defense, and Seattle needs to move the ball in order to win this game. He thinks that if Kenneth Walker can get over 20 carries, then the Seahawks will be in good shape. Kevin, on the other hand, his the pessimistic point of view, he's a little more concerned than Adam. So Kevin doesn't trust the Hawks' run defense or pass blocking in this one, which could be a problem if the Bosa Bash Bros can get home on Geno. And he's also a little worried that Jordan Mason can get it done in the running game. Kevin also notes that the Seahawks' top cornerback, Reek Woolen, is out. And they're also missing defensive tackle Byron Murphy and potentially missing linebacker Boye Mafe. So some injuries on both sides of the ball. Obviously, a few players out for the Niners, namely CMC and a couple of others. But so my thoughts on this game are that this one's going to be super fun. I think this is going to be the most competitive, most exciting Niners-Seahawks game we've had potentially since, and not quite as epic as the 2014 NFC Championship game. I can't remember if it was 2013 or 2014, but y'all know which one I'm talking about. But it'll probably be the best one since then, even better than the playoff game we had a couple years ago with Seahawks and Niners, because I think they're more evenly matched now than they were then. And this one's in Seattle, which is quite possibly the loudest place in the world to play a sporting event. That place is shaped perfectly to concentrate and collect sound into a confined space. So each side of the stadium is like a concave mirror. And the way concave mirrors work for light, but sound waves are the same. When the waves enter the concave shape, they get reflected back into a focal point in front of the concave mirror, or in this case, concave wall and roof. And that point is the field. So it's loud in the stands, as I recall from several years ago, going to get to a game and looking at my beer cup, and the water is vibrating like a T-Rex is chasing me in Jurassic Park. Or I even remember my pant, the jeans of my pants was like vibrating. It was so loud. So that's going to be a challenge for the Niners, no doubt. That could be a factor in the game. We'll see. But in the end, I do think the Niners get this game done and walk away with a win because they have to. The Niners have given up 2 fourth quarter leads to divisional opponents at home, and they simply cannot let another one slip away and go 0-3 in the division. If they do, I think that the Niners' playoff hopes are all but over for this year. It's pretty tough to come back from 0-3 in the division and 2-4 on the year. And the Seahawks will have a pretty handy lead in both of those categories. So we'll see. It should be a really fun game. I hope everyone enjoys it. And thank you for sticking around for a little Hawk Talk.